Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. Billy, I want to start with this, man. You started fighting more than 10 years ago, right? As an amateur. Now you're getting your opportunity on Contender Series, and just man, what are your emotions, man, heading into this?
Since that first MMA fight over 10 years ago, that was always the goal, was to get to the UFC. So, um, to quote Nate Diaz, I'm not surprised. If anything, I'm surprised how long it took. I had a lot of injuries. Obviously, COVID took a couple years away from everybody. Um, but whatever, man. We're here now, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, having that goal at the start of being in the UFC and then it taking, a prolonged period of time, probably longer than you expected. Like, what type of
Yeah,
mental
for sure.
battles did you have to go through, man?
Oh man, there was a lot of them. Everything from just like injuries and there was a point in my career, and it's funny. I think the first fight where I really kind of adopted this mentality was the Payton fight. But I kind of thought to myself, I think I was waiting for the perfect fight, the perfect matchup, the perfect. I'm 100% healthy, and that was the big thing, was injuries. And I remember one day kind of realizing, oh shit, like I'm watching all my friends fight in the UFC, and they're all hurt. So that was a big one for me, was just okay. There's never going to be a perfect time. It's not always going to line up. So you just got to get active and get after it. And then as far as like ups and downs, the Peyton one was really hard for me. My whole life pretty much. So I started MMA when I was 16. I'm 28 now. But before I was 16, from about like 12 to even 18, um, I was competing a lot in Muay Thai. So it's all I've ever really done. So when I had the Peyton fight and I lost that, and it was only my second pro fight, it kind of just put me in a really dark place for a while, and kind of had to uh, dig myself out of it. And I did that just by winning fights.
Yeah, winning is the best solution to anything, right? It seems like.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, man, you did, like, early on in your pro career, you did like go through a lot. I mean, you did have a successful debut, but then after that, like the
Hmm.
whole, pandemic happened, and you had like a few canceled fights leading up to that, even during that time, and then you come
Yeah.
back and you fight
Hmm.
Peyton Talbot. You suffer your first setback and then have to return. Man, that's a lot to go through early in your career. Going
Yeah,
through that
and
and overcoming all of that. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, it's funny, at the time, obviously we see what Peyton is now, and honestly, like on one hand, I'll hate him forever because he took my O from me, but on the other hand, like as long as he's doing well, that just kind of shows you what I'm capable of. Um, and that's a big reason why I think I got the Contender Series fight. I only have six pro fights, um, and Sean Shelby watched me and Peyton, and then he's been watching most of my fights since then. And so while on paper, I only have six fights and I already have a loss. It's at least it's to a guy like that. There's nothing worse than losing to a guy and then they end up getting smoked 10 times in a row or something like that.
True, true, very true. And the last time you fought was in November of last year. But since then, you had a fight that was scheduled. What happened with that one in March?
So I actually had another fight since then. I haven't really told very many people. I fought at Rajadamnern Stadium in Thailand in January of this year. But I had a date already. I didn't have an opponent, so in my head I was like, okay, as long as I don't have an opponent, I don't have a contract, let me fight while I'm out here. So I didn't really tell my management or anything. I just kind of went out there, ended up getting a win at Rajadamnern. But yeah, then I come home, and I'm already in camp. So I think I saw you train at Bong Tao, correct? Or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was there after I won my fight in Bangkok. My girlfriend and I flew down to Phuket, and because I had that fight scheduled in March, so we wanted to kind of switch it to more of an MMA gym. So we went down to Phuket, trained out there, and then when I got home, I was doing my medicals, and I was due for my ophthalmology. And so I go to my ophthalmologist, and they found a torn retina, and I think I was like 8 days out or something. So I had to withdraw from that one. Um, got the operation, so we're good to go now.
That's good, man. Yeah, like what was the recovery like for that, for the torn retina?
Luckily it was just a retinal tear where a detached retina is like a pretty gnarly surgery. My buddy Andre Feely had that one not long before but before they found the tear in mine. And the tear, they just laser it back together. And I don't know if the lady who did the surgery, I don't know if she knows like what my job is. She knew that I boxed, that's kind of like the generic term. And she was like, "Yeah, you could go back to your boxing tomorrow or give it a couple days." And so I gave it 2 weeks just in case, But yeah, they say that with the laser, it heals pretty much right away. They're basically just welding the retina back together.
All right, let's go back to Thailand. You know, you mentioned earlier about you started Muay Thai real young, fought Muay Thai for a
Hmm.
long time. So being able to go to Thailand and fighting in Rajadamnern Stadium, that's huge, right? For somebody like you, for a guy that
Yeah,
came up in Muay Thai.
man, exactly, man. You hit the nail on the head. I That's something I used to have this little notebook when I was a kid, and I would it was like my bucket list, and it was to win. It was funny. It wasn't quite what I ended up getting, but I wanted to win a Rajadamnern championship, a Lumpini championship, and a UFC championship. And life kind of took me different direction. But that was a big reason why my girl actually, she told me, she's like, well, if because we were going back and forth on whether or not I could afford to go to Thailand. And she's like, well, if you don't go, I'm going. And I was like, well, fuck that. I gotta go too. I'm not gonna let you go and I have to miss out. Um, so yeah, to go out there and really like fulfill one of I've wanted to be a Raja fight at Raja since longer than I've even thought about being in the UFC. I used to only want to do Muay Thai and boxing. Um, so to go out there and then win in Thailand's oldest stadium, uh, man, it was really like magical. In Thailand in general, I had always wanted to go. It took me till I was 27 until I actually could get out there. Um, and I got a little nervous on the way there. I was just thinking, man, what if it's not everything I'd hoped it would be? And it eclipsed that. It was amazing, man. It was better than I ever thought it could be.
Yeah, if you've never been to Thailand, you have like a perspective of like what you think is gonna be when you get there, and then you
Yeah.
get there and you're like, oh, it's not like this. You know what I mean? It's like a
Yeah.
normal place. You know what I mean? Except for it's paradise.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, exactly. One thing that I thought, because Phuket wasn't, I prefer Bangkok to Phuket. I did about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks in Bangkok, 2.5 weeks in Phuket, and then we kind of went to Chiang Mai and then went back to Bangkok before we flew out. Um, but yeah, man, like it's funny because Bangkok is such a crazy, like bustling, huge city, like huge. I didn't realize it would take, you know what I mean, 10 stops on the SkyTrain to get you know what I mean, to get to different parts of it. But I felt like it was safe. Like I was never really worried. I was never like looking over my shoulder. I was doing morning runs and night runs and everything. And yeah, like you said, man, it's literally paradise. The plan for me is once I retire, once I hang them up, win a couple belts with the UFC, is to go back to Thailand and retire there.
I saw you got to work with a legend in Sam A. How was that experience?
Yeah, dude. I, it's funny, man, because like a lot of people they look up to LeBron James, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big Kobe fan, Marshawn Lynch. Like I have my idols, but to me, meeting Samit, just meeting him. I remember I saw him walking. I had just finished a class, and I saw him like walking. He must have just finished training or something. and I like wasn't quite sure if it was him, and I was kind of like scoping, and I was like, Same, and I just kind of said it quiet, and then he looked, I'm like, hey, you know, like, it was it was super like just a blessing, you know what I mean? I've been watching Same since I was 13. He's one of the guys that was my era, like my coach Lino, he watched a lot of the golden era fights, and I didn't start watching those until later in my Muay Thai and MMA career. Um, but I watched a ton of Same fights, a ton of Nongo, a ton of like that era, Pet Bunchu and guys like that. And so to me, arguably, you know, the Yad Moy of that era, it was amazing.
And also what's unique about Sam A and maybe learning from him is that he's fought Muay Thai in the MMA gloves. Like his of course his
Hmm.
stadium career is all in the big gloves, regular traditional Muay Thai,
Hmm.
but he's fought in the small ones. So when you were training with him, getting like how was the sparring like with him? You know what I mean? Because it's just like you're standing in front of like one of your idols.
Yeah, yeah. It was you know, whenever I work with guys like that, you know, guys you have a lot of respect for. We did play spar a little bit, and it's I'm just trying to be as respectful as possible. I'm trying to make sure I'm not doing anything that'll piss anybody off, you know, for him, and I'm just I we had fun. Like it was Thai sparring, you know, really light, really playful, but it was amazing, man. Like standing in front of the guy that I've watched win titles and titles and titles, it was so crazy for me. And yeah, with the as far as like the small gloves, I'm sure that that has a an effect on kind of his style. But when I went, one thing that I do regret um, not asking him, I should have because I switch stances sometimes, and I should have asked him to just coach me on southpaw because he's a southpaw, you know. But besides that, man, it was just like whatever he wanted me to do, like whatever, you know what I mean. He could have he didn't, but he could have taught me how to kick like it was my first time ever, and I would have just shut up and listened. You know what I mean? I'm not here to argue with a legend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I actually went to a seminar recently with him and Lurdzilla together in the same seminar. So it was kind of cool to
Yeah,
see all of that. Yeah,
yeah, that's amazing.
those dudes are old, considered old, but they still move so well
Yeah,
for their age with hundreds of
yeah,
fights as
man.
well. It's
And
crazy.
yeah, hundreds. Man, that's another thing that being out in Thailand, at least with MMA, you know, you build up this moment. Like you have however long your camp is, and even before that, as soon as I finish a fight, the next thing I'm thinking about is my next fight. Who do I want to fight? Now, luckily, you know, I'm getting a contract August 20th, so I know these guys. I've been watching these UFC guys. I have an idea of who I would like to fight and who I would like to climb the ranks against. Um, but with that being said, you have let's just say 8 week camp, right? An 8 week camp of just every night thinking about the same guy, and you build this moment, and the pressure gets a lot. You know what I mean? Luckily, it's I've done it for long enough. It's just kind of normal at this point. But going out to Thailand, like the gym I was at in Bangkok, Sang Morakat, it's a small gym right next to a temple, and those guys were fighting every week, and they would fight, and they take maybe a day off, you know, let their body heal if it was a tougher fight. If it was an easy fight, they'd be back the next day, you know. Um, but I remember I won my fight, and back here I win a fight, and everyone's gassing me up. They're commenting on my Insta, all this shit, right? I go back to the gym, they're like, "Oh, you win?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Good job," and that's it. You know what I mean? I was like, "Okay, that's how it should be, man." Like this is my profession. Um, I'm gonna have a million more fights, so you know, just enjoy them and embrace it for as long as I can. You know, there will be a point in my life where I'll have to hang them up, and everyone that I've talked to always says they miss it. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to enjoy it while I got it.
Definitely, man. Now you get ready for this Contender Series opportunity. When you get the contract
Hmm.
signed and you get the opponent, who's the guys coming in? Your small collective of people that you getting ready with.
Um, I have, I have like all the credit goes to the people around me, man. Like obviously I'm the one in the cage, I'm the one fighting, but I just have a great team around me, and I train at three different gyms, and I have a lot of friends that come in and help me at any of those three gyms. But Team Alpha Male, obviously, they're a staple in the UFC. Everyone knows about Tam and what they've been able to accomplish, and I love those guys there. Danny Castillo, I've been working with him, and he's really really improved my game. I also train at Nexus Jiu Jitsu with Andrew Kerfoot, and he that's also where my buddy Jack Duffy trains, and he's fighting the week after me for Contender Series. So um, Andrew's kind of the guy that helps me with any grappling ideas. Obviously I'm a striker, but I'm well rounded. I can wrestle, so some things to look for, some things to watch out for defensively, and then my Muay Thai gym, Main Event Muay Thai. That's where I train with Coach Lino Enriquez and all the guys over there, and that's just my second family. You know what I mean? And Lino, the whole Enriquez family is really like my family. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have all these people come together just to help me achieve my dream, and it's up to this point. I'm sure man. Local MMA doesn't pay well. I'm not making great money on these small fights, um, but to have this group of people from top to bottom, and including my family and my girlfriend and my girlfriend's family, uh, it's just everyone's on the same page. We're and everyone wants to see me achieve my dream, which is weird. I was talking to Lino about it, and he was like, it's kind of weird sometimes because me or him, he didn't have a ton of fights, really good amateur career, and then one pro fight. He won that, but he was talking about how it's not imposter syndrome, because for me and him, we always knew what we were capable of. I always knew how good I was. I always knew that I would be in the UFC one day, and I would win a UFC championship one day. But what does seem like a little off sometimes is all the people that want to see me win. You know what I mean? For me, like, I'd be doing this whether or not anybody cared. So for people to support me the way they do, I'm super fortunate, man. I can't express that enough.
Yeah, for sure. And now you're gonna face off against a guy all the way from across the world. He's doing his thing. He's kind of
Mhm.
similar to you. He started martial arts
Mhm.
real young, a little bit younger than you, and
Mhm.
had done really well for himself. What do you think of Cody Haddon and the fighting style from what you've seen?
Um, what's funny is I actually had a different opponent originally, and he had some contract disputes, so he ended up not being able to fight me. And I think Cody is actually a way tougher fight than the guy I was gonna fight. But I prefer it because watching Cody's fights, he's gonna bring it. You know what I mean? He's not the guy I was gonna fight was gonna try to play the outside game, and I would have won, but it would have been boring. That's not what you want for Contender Series. You're not getting a contract if you're boring. With Cody, I'm expecting him to come after me, man, and uh, I think it'll be a really exciting fight. But I just think I just have too much for him. He's a really talented kid. His only loss is to Steve Ursig, so it's funny, we have a really similar kind of record. I lost my second fight. I think he lost his third fight. But both those guys, we've seen what they've been able to do since we lost to them. But yeah, man, it's Contender Series. I'm not expecting an easy fight. I think this is obviously my toughest opponent to date. And the real key, I think, is, excuse me, every fight's your biggest fight, and I've always treated it like that. So you're always climbing. You're always climbing. If you lose, your next fight's your biggest fight. If you win, your next fight's your biggest fight. So that part doesn't really change. The only thing that changes now is I got a guy that is worthy. You know what I mean? He's worthy to step into the cage with me, and I'm excited to get him out of there. And one thing I was, when I flew out to Vegas and did my media, I mentioned this is the type of matchup where we go out, we have a barn burner, I get my hand raised, and Cody might get a contract too. We might run that back in the UFC. It's that type of matchup. They're putting us first on the card, and I think it's because they want to excite people. They want, okay, let's open up with a banger and then keep people watching. The UFC knows what they're doing. They're not. It's not a favorable matchup. They're not doing me any favors. But like I said, I got too much for them.
Yeah, this is one of the best matchups if you stack it on paper the whole season,
For sure.
right? It's like so close, and yeah, I'm super,
Hmm.
super anticipating this fight, man. Just just to see like,
Thanks, man.
the style that you have and the style that he has, aggressiveness, and you have all your finishes are knockouts. Are you expecting a knockout, or do you feel like this dude might be super tough to where I'm just gonna beat the shit out of him for 3 rounds?
You know what? The one thing that I learned from the Payton fight, because I don't know if you've seen that fight, but I hit Payton harder than I've ever hit anybody in sparring, fights, whatever, at the bar. You know what I mean? I hit that guy harder than I've ever connected on anybody. And I didn't rock him, I didn't hurt him, I didn't daze him at all. So one thing I took from that fight was, okay, when you land these big shots, don't expect them to be hurt. Just keep hitting the gas, keep scoring, keep touching them, um, and let it build. You know what I mean? He might be able to take two really good right hands or a big left hook or whatever, but if I land 30 or 40 or 50 of them, even if I don't finish them, it's just going to keep getting worse for him. You know?
So you're gonna introduce the people on, I guess, on ESPN, what White Boy Rage the fighting style is?
Shit, I forgot I said that. I think Feely actually coined that for me.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, man, I don't know.
I
I'm
like
not
it,
like an
man.
angry
It's
guy,
good.
but yeah, it's fitting. I feel like
Uh,
and I feel like it's fitting for Cody too. You know what I mean?
uh,
But yeah, man, I love fighting, and I think that's really what my style boils down to. Like, I like exchanges. I like fighting. My previous MMA fight in November, the guy didn't want to engage with me, so I had to wrestle. I had to mix the game plan up a little bit, and I won all the striking exchanges, but that caused him to leave. He kept backing up and kept dancing against the fence, and I was like, okay, um, you got to do what you got to do. So that fight is my last fight, even though it was probably one of my tougher opponents. It's just really it rubbed me the wrong way because he was talking all this shit about how he was going to strike with me, and then I touch him a couple times and I break his foot on a check, and now he doesn't want to fight anymore. So that's one thing that I'm excited with Cody. It doesn't matter, at least from what I've seen. I could be wrong. Maybe I get in there, I hurt him, and he folds, but I really doubt it. I really doubt it. He seems like the type of guy where if his forearm's broken, he's going to keep throwing punches. If his leg's broken, he's going to keep kicking. And that's really that type of shit excites me. That's the type of shit that motivates me, especially going forward into the UFC. Sometimes guys, if they have good coaches, they'll be smart about the fights they pick before the big show. But for me, once I'm in the show, I'll fight whoever they want me to go against. Sign the contract. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I just like fighting, and the better the opponent, the better I feel about it.
August 20th, Contender Series, UFC Apex, Las Vegas. Billy, thank you so much, man, for the time and all the best in
Of
this
course,
upcoming
man.
fight,
Thank you.
man. It could be like one of those scenarios, like you said. Either guy wins and both you guys get contracts. It's that type
Yeah,
of fight.
it'll be exciting, man. It'll definitely be exciting. Um, uh, I'm not really predicting. Like I don't want to try to predict his game plan. Um, he does a lot of boxing. He does a lot of grappling, and he throws some kicks as well. So as long as I'm in there ready to go, it's going to be a great fight.